Hello, hello. Come on into Jimmy on Clubhouse. This is where I go on the brand new Clubhouse app. Those of you that haven't heard about Clubhouse before, it is an app currently only available for the iPhone and only by invitation. So it's going to be released to the public pretty soon, but for now, because there's so many people that can't get on Clubhouse, I wanted to do this page here on Instagram to be able to connect you to the information that takes place here on Clubhouse. So I am running late for my topic today, how the keto diet is different for women. So let's get this show on the road. I think this will be very educational. Have a wonderful, wonderful expert here who can help answer questions about this topic. So thank you for being here, and let's start the room. Coming in, guys, we're getting ready to start another one of my interviews, so make yourself at home. I see my speakers here. What's up, Lesja? What's up, Lesja? Are you there, Lesja?
Hi.
There you are.
Yeah, sorry.
I was like, when I say your name, that's your cue to talk. What'd you say?
Oh my gosh, my internet's been so crappy.
Uh-oh.
I hope it's okay.
Yeah. Well, for right now it is. So I guess if you go suddenly silent, I'll know why.
Yeah, I think it's
Oh, you've got another device playing in the background. If you could turn that one off, I'm getting the feedback.
Yep, I'm working on it.
Okay.
Okay.
It's all good. I didn't know there was like a delay in the real timeness. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Anyway, hello guys. Thanks for being here. Come on in. I'm going to ping Judith so that we can open this bad boy fully up and see if I could get her into the room to open this bad boy. But thank you guys for being here. Yeah, ping some people into the room, especially the females out there. Let them know that we're doing a show all about keto for women today and how it's different for women than necessarily it is for guys. And this will be a really interesting show today. I have a wonderful guest I'm excited to introduce you to here in a moment, but we're going to let a few more people get in. Lesja, thanks for being here. Is your day going okay?
Yeah, it's my work day. My kids are in school, so it's a good day.
Nice and quiet. Quiet-ish, I suppose. All right, guys. So, Lesja, did you respond to quiet-ish? I can't hear you.
Oh no, I didn't say anything.
Oh, because your mic went off and then it went quiet. I was like, uh-oh, did she hear me? All right, so we're going to start the show, you guys. Keto for the Soul is the name of the room you are in. Hit that little green house at the top, just above my head there, in the title of the show. And please subscribe. Wonderful, wonderful group of people here. I see so many of my friends in the audience. Thank you all for being here today on my show. My name's Jimmy Moore. I am a professional podcaster. I've been doing that for over 15 years. So when Clubhouse came out, I was like, what's my niche in here? Oh yeah, I can talk to people. I can interview people. And so I have lots of people in my sphere of influence, including today's guest. She is a ketogenic holistic nutritionist, knows a lot of things about a lot of things, but her name is Lesja, and I'm not even going to try to pronounce your full name. Will you tell me how to say your full name? I just need to hear it.
Lesja Holzapfel.
There it is. I'm just going to call you Lesja, and that's a lot easier than trying to pretend like, you need to kind of come up with like a rapper name, like MC Lesja or something. But Lesja wanted to talk about a topic that I think is so critical, and I love seeing so many of you ladies in this room here today, because the keto diet, quite frankly, is different for women than it is for men. So why don't we just dive right in, Lesja? Why is keto different for women? Does it have to do with the hormonal effects in women that are different than men?
Yeah, so it's a couple things. The main thing is because of our unique biology. And we have this thing called the circadian rhythm that aligns with our 28-day cycle that most women just don't know how to work around that when starting the keto diet.
Yeah.
And then certain hormone things, like most of the women that want to do keto, they want to do it for weight loss. But then when I dig deep and say, well, what caused the weight gain, right? Because usually weight gain is a sign of something metabolically broken in this body, and it's usually some type of hormone issue. So based on that specific hormone issue, they really have to adapt and make keto fit them and personalize it and make some adjustments.
So why don't you think this is talked about more within the keto community? I mean, I've written a bunch of keto books. I never really distinguished that there was some differences between men and women, but I suppose it was always axiomatic that there would be. And plus the whole conception of, well, guys can lose weight easier than girls can. Is it related to why keto is different for women?
Well, yeah, of course, with the hormones. Like, I compare it all the time. Like, I have so many clients that they come to me and they join my program, and I have meal plans. And, I'm all like, you can share them with your husband. I'm like, I don't care. Obviously, you're going to be cooking the food. So, but no, this is my food. And so they'll come back and they'll be like, I've been making the meal plans, and my husband lost 10 pounds this week, and I gained 2. What is going on? And I'm like, well, you tell me what's going on. Like, where are you at in your period?
Yes.
Cycle? How is your sleep been? How is your stress? Like, we respond to that completely different than men do, and it's so much easier for men to lose weight because they don't have such a complex hormonal system as we do. And Jimmy, I think the reason why it's not talked about a lot is because, let's be real, like, there's not a lot of studies about keto for women.
Right.
Or in general for women, right? We're so complex. We're a little hard to study. Scientists are like, we're not messing with those women. They got the hormones and the cycles. So most of the studies are done on men, and it's really hard to establish the differences when we look at the scientific data, and it's mostly done on men.
And I love that the differences get talked about, which is what we're doing here today on Keto for the Soul. I wanted to bring you on because there are women, and I hear it all the time. I kind of peek in a bunch of the rooms all day long, and there's a common theme of women being frustrated by the lack of weight loss, by the lack of changes, by being overwhelmed in their life. Any women relate to that right now? Like, it's almost like women take on this maternal mode of having to be everything to everybody, and they don't realize the tremendous stress they're putting on their body, which would be the antithesis of keto working well for them.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of where I start before going to how do we personalize your keto approach. I usually ask, like, well, what has caused you to come to keto in the first place? And then from that answer, then we can establish what the best keto diet is for you. Because, for instance, if you're a woman that has issues with her cortisol, like stress, too much stress, and your body is in that flight or fight response, things like bulletproof coffee, right? And putting a stick of butter with a half a cup of MCT oil and coffee, and that's your breakfast, is probably not the best choice for you because coffee is a stressor and it's going to elevate your cortisol even more. So if a woman doesn't know that and she's just doing keto because, she saw an ad for bulletproof coffee and everybody's doing the bulletproof coffee and she is doing that and struggling to lose weight, she's getting frustrated, it's because her cortisol is rising even more, and then cortisol causes belly fat, and she's like, keto's not working for me. And it's not that it's not working for her, it's that she didn't personalize and adapt it to her current health circumstances and struggles that she has.
Woo, that one will preach, because there's a lot of people that fall down that rabbit hole of doing what they think is the quote right thing, and then the quote right thing is the antithesis of what the real right thing is. Yeah, it's tough. So why don't we zero in on some of those things that are different when it comes to women when they're eating keto? Because a guy, and there's a bunch of guys in here. Thanks to all my bros in here today. Appreciate you guys being here. We are pretty monolithic eaters. We're pretty, give us one thing to eat, we'll keep eating that. Women tend to like variety, at least from, again, the comments that I've heard. Is that part of the issue, that there's kind of this need for variety? And I know on an individual basis that could change from person to person, but it does seem like there's this need for recipes more within the female population, whereas a guy says, just give me bacon and steak and I'm good.
Right. Yeah, I think it also comes down to just our nature as women, right? We love to that's like how we nurture, like we make meals, like that's kind of, a lot of women, that's our love language, cooking. Like I'm really like that too. I get bored with the same type of meal. That's why like I have a keto food blog, because I'm like, there has to be more to this life than bacon and burgers and butter and all the things. But I also think it has to do with just the different times of our cycle and what our body needs during certain times.
Yes.
So, for example, during certain times of our periods, it's better to increase the carb intake. And there are weeks that strict keto or clean keto works really well. So, for instance, the week one, like your bleed week, that's great for keto. But the week before your period, this is usually when I see most of my clients have extreme carb cravings and
Yes.
sugar cravings. So this is the best time to do carb cycling and increase calories. And so what I find is that most women, they try to fight it and they try to white knuckle their way through keto, through those cravings, and they're so extreme that they end up overtaking them, and then they just fall off the wagon and go crazy and binge on all the things, rather than if they understood their biology and they said, okay, I know this is coming, I know this is part of how my body works, how can I strategically add more carbs in? And when I say carbs, I don't mean like pasta, bread, and donuts here. I'm talking about the good carbs, right? I'm talking about the sweet potatoes, any steel cut oats, the starchier vegetables, things like that, to feed that beast, so to speak, so that your cravings don't overtake you, but you're still on plan, right? And your body's able to utilize those carbs that week and burn more calories that week. That way you're not completely derailing yourself. That's a big problem with women. They completely, like, their period just hits them like a freight train and they go crazy, and then they spiral out of control, and then they're like, okay, I'll start again on Monday. And it's that vicious cycle of dieting that comes every single month for women.
That doesn't sound like a period. That sounds like an exclamation point.
It's terrible.
Yes, I will take your word on that. I would never know and will never know. So I remember interviewing one time a registered nurse named Jackie Eberstein. She was Dr. Atkins's top nurse in his clinic in New York City for 30 years. And she said women freak out during their period. Like that period of time when you're bleeding, it's like everybody's like, oh, I get kicked out of ketosis. And what she said is, yeah, you're not showing ketones, but it doesn't mean you can't get the benefits of it. So it's interesting, your approach is to get women to be strict keto, but then if they don't get that feedback loop that says that they're doing something good for their body, how do you walk them off the ledge and explain that?
Well, first of all, I tell my clients to never weigh themselves and never check their ketones during period week.
Okay, good.
Because that is just like a recipe, like just, it's so stressful already. You're already not in a good mood. You're PMSing, you're bloated, you're all the things. Like the last thing you want to do is step on the scale and see all that water weight. Or check your ketones and see that you've been kicked out when you've been working so hard to maintain ketosis. And I'm like, why even do that to yourself?
That's right.
Don't worry. Like, your body will jump right back into ketosis, when your period is over. And then it's also another thing of like being so obsessed with ketosis and that number. It's like, it's not an all or nothing. I don't believe that we have to be in nutritional ketosis 100% of the time, especially as women. So it's like being able to realize that, like, it's okay. You're going to be in and out, but as long as you're maintaining that way of eating, of avoiding refined, processed, ultra processed carbs and sugar, I think you're doing amazing in my book. All right. And so all of those nuances of being in ketosis and being out of ketosis, I think that if we obsess too much out of that, then we're missing the big picture. And the big picture here is to heal our bodies and improve our health, not maintain nutritional ketosis. Because I will tell you, I have gained weight on nutritional ketosis.
Yes.
I I gained like 15, 20 pounds while being on keto. Why? Because I was so obsessed with that number. I was not focusing on the food that I was eating. I was eating too much keto processed food. Back when I started in 2015, there was no resources. The only thing that I had available was Jimmy Moore and the Doc.
Yeah.
Your podcast. That's where I learned all the things about keto. There wasn't all these keto snacks and keto this and keto that. And then when I started my blog, all these companies would send me all these things to try. And I'm like, oh, yeah, that looks good. Oh, that looks good. I found myself 15 pounds overweight because I was not paying attention to my food quality. And that is when I switched over to a clean keto approach. That's what I teach my clients, because I find that most women, they start keto, right? They're really excited. They go to Dr. Google, find all the things that are keto. They run to the grocery store, see the keto section, and just throw everything in the cart. And then they eat the keto food, and then they're not losing weight. And they're like, but I'm eating keto, but I'm doing keto, right? And so I think that we need to, it's important. Nutritional ketosis is great, and it's great to know that you're doing the diet right. But obsessing over that and obsessing over those numbers is not beneficial to long-term sustainability for overall health.
Woo-wee! You're bringing it early and often, girl. I love it. I love it. So we're going to reset the room, you guys. It is Keto for the Soul. Go click on that greenhouse at the top. Definitely join, subscribe. Lots of wonderful moderators in other rooms here today. Appreciate you all watching today. I've got my friend Lesha here today. She's a keto nutrition, holistic nutrition specialist. You love the real food aspect of keto, and I want to dig into that here in a second. But what's your blog name?
So my keto blog is called Eat, Be Fit, Explore. And then my membership site is BSB Tribe.
Yes, BSB Tribe. Go look that up, you guys. But the Eat, Be Fit, Explore. I remember the first time I saw your username on Instagram, I was like, Eat, Be Fit. Yeah, I had to work it a little bit.
Yeah, I used to be Keto Fit Mom Life back in the day.
Yes.
I started it. I was like, but I want to be more than keto, because we talked about this yesterday, but I love keto, but I think there's more to health than keto. And so I wanted to approach it in a more holistic way. So
and those of us that have been in this a long time, there's only so many ways you can tell people keep your carbs low and eat real food. That's the crux of what we're teaching, and I've talked for 17 years. It's you do want to talk about more things than just that.
Yes, absolutely.
So guys, if you want to ask a question, go ahead and raise your hand. I have been trying to bring up Nan, but it says you're not available, but your hand's up. So I don't know why it's not bringing you up. But raise your hand, you guys. Click on that little hand at the bottom, and it will bring you, or will bring you up here so you can ask your question live. But let's get back into why you're such a real food advocate, and is this something that would benefit more women than not?
Well, I think that after reading hundreds and hundreds of books on nutrition and health and my own experience and going through, I studied to be a dietitian, and just what I see overall in general is that you cannot go wrong when you focus on real whole foods. And sadly, the reason why we are so addicted to things like sugar and ultra processed carbohydrates and refined foods is because these manufacturers have literally created them to make them addicting.
Yeah.
So when you look at all those things on the shelf, there's this book I read, it's called The End of Overeating, and it talks all about, this guy interviews these scientists that literally work for these restaurant chains and these food companies, and how they create and design food to be addicting for us.
Yes.
So thinking about, I personally do not want to be their lab rat. I don't want my kids to be their lab rats, right?
Yes.
And being stuck in that, where you're addicted to that, and the more you eat it, the more you want it. That's why I decided to completely quit sugar last year, because I was completely addicted to sugar, Jimmy. It was insane. And I had to completely cut it out. And I feel that when you eat, and a lot of the women that I work with, they say that the reason they can't lose weight is because they have cravings for carbs and sugar all the time, and they cannot like they can't control it. And I will say that the moment I switched to whole real foods and stuck to that, my cravings for carbs and sugar went away completely. Like
Yes.
like not. I mean, yeah, sure, things like periods, adjustments, and you smell something or you go to a party and you see something, of course, but that's more of a neurological thing. It's not really just because I want it. It's because of the thoughts and the nostalgia that I have around that. But overall, in general, day in and day out, my cravings are gone. And I think that if you stick to that, when you know exactly what's in the food, right? You know where it came from, you know where it was made, right? By nature, not by man. And even the labels, like FDA doesn't regulate certain nutritional supplements or protein bars and stuff like that. So you really don't know really what's in there. And I want to know what's going into my body, especially when it comes to controlling hormones, regulating hormones, balancing the gut. All of those substances are completely destroying our microbiomes and destroying our hormones. And then it leads to cancers and it leads to all kinds of diseases, heart disease, cardiovascular disease, all the things. There's so many reasons. It's just so simple to just stick to foods that are closest to nature.
Here, here. By the way, that book, The End of Overeating, I interviewed that guy on the Livin' La Vida Low Carb show many years ago now when that book came out. Dr. David Kessler is his name. He used to be the FDA commissioner. So he kind of was a whistleblower once he was no longer the FDA commissioner. And it goes to what you were just saying, that they know what they're promoting and putting on these labels is so bogus, and it's meant to deceive the consumer, not to promote health. So even the so-called keto products out there, you guys, I was in a grocery store the other day, Lesia, and there was some keto wrap. And I'm always curious when I see keto on a product, and I pick it up and the very first ingredient is enriched whole wheat flour. I'm like, how the hell do you call that keto?
Right. I know. And the problem is that people that are beginning, they don't know how to read labels, right? They just see keto on the front and they put it in their cart and like, is this keto? This has to be keto. We just trust manufacturers too much. And yeah, that book like completely revealed to me, it was such an eye opener. And I'm like, I'm not falling for that. No way. I'm done.
Yes. Yes, yes. So, any other uniqueness to women when it comes to the ketogenic diet? Definitely focusing on real food, definitely being mindful of your period the week before, having the carbohydrate, and then the week that you're bleeding, having the strict keto. Are there other kind of common themes that you see amongst your clientele?
Yeah, so when it comes to the hormone situation, I always recommend that, and I go in detail in my program about every hormone and how to eat and how to do keto. But a few things that I do want to mention here is if you have PCOS or extra testosterone or estrogen, dairy is probably not the best idea or the best way for you to do keto until you reverse or heal that. So for those type of women, I really recommend that they avoid dairy if all possible. And I always preach clean keto, and I think that like people think that like I'm like a cheese hater because I'm always like dairy, clean keto, dairy free. I love cheese. I mean, I can live off of like cheese, wine, and chocolate for the rest of my life. However, what the research has shown is that when it comes to specific hormone issues or gut issues for that matter, dairy is not the best option. So if you have PCOS or extra or too much testosterone or estrogen, I would recommend that you limit your dairy intake.
Is it
Also with estrogen,
is it because
sorry,
of
go
the
ahead.
insulogenic effects? Is it? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but this is fascinating. Is it because dairy is insulogenic, which then impacts those other hormones?
Yes, that and because of the way the dairy is made nowadays. Like 50 years ago, I probably wouldn't say this, but the way that dairy is made now, most of it is very laden with hormones.
Yes.
And so if you already have hormonal issues, you're eating the dairy, now you're consuming even more hormones. You're just it's very difficult then to reverse that PCOS or lower that testosterone.
Unless you
Now,
find
that
raw
being
dairy,
said,
right?
yeah. Now, unless you're eating raw dairy, which I will say that most people don't because A, it's really expensive and it's hard to find.
Yeah,
So
I live
yeah, a
in
little
South
bit of raw
Carolina, so
dairy.
it's legal here in South Carolina.
Oh,
So
is it?
Yeah, I've got a store literally a mile from my house,
Wow.
a little country store, and they got raw milk and raw cream and raw cheese. It's wonderful.
Yeah, that's amazing. And with that, I would say then yeah, go ahead. But still, you don't want to do too much, right? Because dairy also can stall your weight for other reasons,
Yes.
inflammation, make you bloated, all that. However, like I live in Ohio, and raw dairy is illegal. I would love to get raw milk, but to make homemade kefir, but it's illegal. So most of the dairy, I mean, I see this all the time, right? Facebook, Instagram, like everyone's just like pouring that shredded cheese on all their food, and I'm like, I don't like judge the way people eat, but it's like if you have certain hormone conditions, you should probably avoid that for a little while to heal your body first. And
Yes.
then with estrogen, estrogen dominance, I want to talk about that for a minute because a lot of women have that too, and I experienced that myself. But if you do have estrogen dominance, then conventional red meat is probably not such a great idea for you because of the hormones that are in conventional red meat, right? So you might want to really be careful with that and either choose grass fed or lower your meat intake and really focus on doing more of the non starchy vegetables and maybe switch to more net carbs instead of total carbs because you want your liver to metabolize that estrogen out of your body. And to do that, you want to help it by more insoluble fiber. So this was my issue. I ate so much conventional red meat because my husband loves red meat. We're a big, smoking family. We love to smoke in the summer. And I found myself experiencing too much estrogen. So I really had to take that down and alter that. So it's like, depends on where you're at and what you're dealing with. You really have to personalize and customize the keto diet for you.
Yeah, and that's a constant battle is trying to get that customization down. By the way, there's only 9 states in America where milk is legal raw. And other dairy raw. If you want to look up a list to see if your state is on that, realmilk.com. It's the Weston A. Price Foundation created that website as a resource to teach about the benefits of getting real milk as opposed to pasteurized and, like you said, chemical laden, all these hormone laden types of things in traditional dairy. So thanks for that information, Lesha. All right, you guys, we're going to reset the room and come to you guys because I know you have lots of questions about customizing the keto diet for women as opposed to what us dudes do. And we have a wonderful expert here today. Lesha has been so generous with her time. She hangs out here in Keto for the Soul. I hardly ever see you pop up to any of the groups, though, Lesha.
I know, I'm usually just listening because I'm like multitasking. I'm like, well, I don't think I can come on now, but I'll listen in.
Yes. Well, your presence here is welcomed, and I'm glad we were able to formalize you as a speaker here today on my show. But let's reset the room, and this is Keto for the Soul. Hit the little green house at the top of the screen and be sure to subscribe. Lots of wonderful content. I'm finding myself on here way too much during the day, but I try, like Lesha, to just tune in. I don't always engage, but I always listen, and it's just nuggets of wonderfulness all day long. So go check it out. Be sure you follow me and Lesha and everyone up here on the stage. Definitely lots of great content providers as we do our thing. But let's go to questions now. Amy, you're on deck. Amy, Bob, Amy. There you
Good
are.
morning. I have bad aim apparently. Good morning. I don't necessarily have a question. I just wanted to thank you guys so much for bringing this information into the community. I think, like Jimmy, like I'm passionate about the same thing and teaching women how to keto for their body and their hormones and for a lifestyle. Because, yeah, it's not talked about enough, Leja, about the need for carbs. Like women do sometimes need for hormonal health to have some of those carbs. And talking about inflammation and how our food choices impact all that. So I just want to applaud you guys for getting this into the community and talking about it so that all these women who are kind of feeling stuck and like keto might not be working for them, that they can start to find these answers. So cool. I'm so happy to be here and listening, and it's awesome.
Thank you, Amy. Lesha?
Yeah, I agree. I think it's like we have to talk more about this and how it's different and how different hormones affect us and the food we eat and all that. So I think it's going to take women like us to speak up about that and share our experiences and our knowledge so more women can learn about that rather than just following the traditional way of how everybody does keto, or all of the dirty, lazy, all types of those ketos.
Absolutely. Thank you, Amy. Johanna, you're up next. What you got?
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me up on the stage. I have one question. I wanted to share about when you said about the PCOS. I actually reversed my PCOS with keto. Like, my cyst completely disappeared. So that was pretty awesome. An awesome side effect that I was not expecting from going on the keto life. So thanks for also sharing that information so everybody else could hear it. And my question is, have you worked with breastfeeding moms? And if you have, what difference have you noticed hormonally, or just them doing keto, and any adjustments that you recommended to breastfeeding moms?
Yeah, great question, Joanna. And by the way, congratulations for reversing your PCOS. That is so amazing. I have a friend that did the same thing, and she had infertility for 5 years and reversed her PCOS by doing a low-carb diet. And it's just the power of it is truly fascinating. As far as breastfeeding go, I actually experimented this on myself, so I could tell you firsthand of what I did. I don't have any breastfeeding clients yet, but when I had my second baby, at this point I was familiar with keto and I knew I wanted to do keto. So what I did is as soon as, I gave birth, I started a low carb diet again. And the problem that I found was that my traditional number of carb threshold, which was 30 grams of total carbs, was way too low, because I was burning through that really quickly. And what I noticed is that my milk supply started to decrease. I was also having my ketones were like 8, 8.0, 9.0. It was insane. And that's not, obviously, unless you have, type 1 diabetes, that's not going to be a problem for you for ketoacidosis or anything. But it was crazy to see that number. And I also noticed I was feeling very nauseous and dizzy. And that's when I realized, oh my God, I need to really up my carbohydrates. So I ended up experimenting, and I would add in 10-gram increments at a time. So whatever your carb number is right now, if you're going to be breastfeeding, I would increase by 10 grams each week until you find that perfect spot where you feel good, you're still in ketosis, and your milk supply isn't going down. Because I found that at 30 grams, my milk supply was going down because I was seriously sick. But my sweet spot was 60 to 70 grams of total carbs. And what I found was I was still able to maintain nutritional ketosis, and my milk supply, and my milk was actually very good. It was very fatty. So, the ratio between the fat and the water, it was really fatty, which is awesome because it's the best for babies. So what I would say is I believe that you need a higher carb number when you are breastfeeding. And it's all about experimenting and finding that sweet spot, and not just going traditional 20 grams or 30 grams, to make sure that you have that milk supply and that you also feel good.
Johanna?
Is that helpful?
Yeah, that was really helpful. Thank you so much for that information. I did notice that, because I'm breastfeeding right now, so I did notice that when I have a little higher carb, I do feel a little better, and it does increase my milk production too.
Yes, just experiment with that number, right? I always talk to my women about being an empowered experimenter. Just experiment, increase 10 grams at a time per week until you find that perfect threshold, and then go from there.
Well, and people so fear carbohydrates. I hate that that's become the moniker in the ketogenic community. Carbs are not bad. Targeting them for specific purposes like what you just described, I think is beautiful. But see, how do you explain the nuance without getting into there's no bumper sticker that says, well, when you're breastfeeding, here's what you do.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's hard. By the way, PCOS, Johanna, you can look at it like insulin resistance of the ovaries. Just like type 2 diabetes is insulin resistance of the pancreas. We could go down the line of all the ways insulin resistance manifests itself. But yeah, it like clockwork. I have talked to enough reproductive endocrinologists, Lesha, who basically put their patients with PCOS on a low carb diet, and voila, in a few months, they are pregnant as all get out.
I know, it's so amazing.
Like clockwork. Thank you, Johanna. Rachel, you're up next.
Hey, Jimmy. Hey, Lesia. Johanna, I love that question.
Yeah, what you got for us?
I'm curious. I think I kind of got my answer with your last response to Johanna, but do you have kind of a range or reach for your carbs that you want to get on your when you do?
I'm sorry, you were cutting out for me. What was the last part?
Oh, when you are cycling carbs while you're keto during your monthly cycle, what grams do you shoot for? I know it's individual, but just curious, like if there's a range that I should be shooting for, and also what are your favorite carbs to cycle through?
So, of course, answer, it depends. That's usually the answer for every nutritional question out there. But I will say that personally, for me, it also depends on, like, are you active or not? So if you're active and you work out, then you can do more carbs, versus if you're not very active, then you might want to do lower carbs. So for me personally, on my higher carb days, I do around 100 grams to 130 grams. And again, that's just for me. That's depending on like how much I work out and how fat adapted I am. I also feel like for me and my clients, I always have them do at least 90 days of clean keto to get fat adapted and to get their body used to burning fat as fuel before we go into carb cycling. Now, if they have certain hormonal issues, I would recommend them carb cycling around their periods. But in general, I wait until they're completely fat adapted to introduce the carb cycling. But I would say, depending on what your number is now, maybe increase it 40 to 50 grams a couple times a week and experiment with that and see how that goes. But usually my sweet spot is around that 100 to 130 mark. As far as the types of food, I love doing sweet potatoes. I also introduced steel-cut oats, but I always mix it with protein so it balances my blood sugar, so it's not spiking too high. I love to do things like quinoa on occasion. I love lentils, but I'm careful with them because of the gut microbiome and my issues that I had with my gut. But things like more starchier vegetables, so the squashes, right, the ones that we usually are afraid to go with on keto because they're higher carbs, so the acorn squashes, the butternuts, all of that, beets, things like that. I try to stick more of the vegetable side of the carbs, and then some of like the ancient grains on occasion. Those are probably the ones that I really stick with.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Rachel. Mary, you're up.
All right. I feel like this group is going to be tired of me talking about my IUD, but I feel like maybe this is a good spot. I had lost 113 pounds until last month when I got an IUD placed after having 5 beautiful babies. I completely stalled out, which I'm not frustrated with. I think, I know my body's going to adjust. Is there anything, though, hormonally, though, that maybe I should be thinking about with adjusting my food? Because it is the first month in 2.5 years, maybe 2.5 years that I haven't lost weight. And I did go completely clean this month for the first time in about 2 years. And it's definitely adjusted some things. And so you talked about the dairy and some of the other things that you see in women in general. But I was like, is there anything that, these new hormones that are now in my body that I need to adjust to or think about or consider anything from changing my macros? Or do I need to be adding in more protein and less fat? Or some of those questions that I have, because it is a weird spot for me to be in, because I've been cooking with Spam for so long. Like every month I'm like, yeah, 6 to 8 pounds forever. Like that's just, and I've had so much to lose. So I know it's going to slow down, I think, in the weight loss itself, but obviously my body's not responding in the same way is the red flag, I guess, for me, that I'm doing what I've always done, if not better. And obviously my body's not adjusting well. And more than that, my body doesn't seem to be adjusting well to the IUD in general. And so I didn't know if you had any thoughts on that. And since it's a women's group, I'm going to just talk about it.
Yeah, so I'm not 100% familiar with the whole process of IUD. However, I do have a friend that had one, and she said that when it got put in, her body just got crazy, like went out of whack. So if you want to think about it this way, it's like your body sees anything you put into it as an invader, right? So it's like, what is this? Do you belong here? So it kind of freaks out a little bit. So you have to be careful with that point of it. So maybe that is what's happening. Your body's just trying to adjust to this different thing that's in it. But also when it comes to weight loss stalls, there's a few things that I recommend for my clients. And the very first thing is, first of all, it's like, what are you determining your weight loss stall on? Is it only the number of the scale, or is it also things like your body measurement and non-scale victory? Sometimes we become so obsessed with the number on the scale that we don't pay attention to all those other things that are also as important, if not more important, right? So I want you to consider that as well. Now, if you haven't lost any weight in like 4 weeks, then yeah, I would consider that technically a stall. And some things that I have my clients do is, first of all, really reduce the dairy, like I said. Also the sweeteners, right? Sweeteners in any packaged or processed keto foods, they also can halt your weight loss. So I would recommend that you look at that and see, are you eating a lot of sweeteners? Are you eating a lot of those protein bars or keto cookies or stuff like that? And really make sure that you're eliminating or cutting that out if you want to break a stall. Another thing is like, are you now eating less or are you eating more? Because if you're eating less, right, and you're lowering your calories, sometimes we're like, oh, well, I hit a stall, I need to eat less, but it actually has the reverse effect. And then you end up lowering your basal metabolic rate, and your body's now burning less calories doing nothing than it used to. So sometimes eating more will actually help you break a stall. And I know it's crazy, this concept of eating more, right? Us women are so used to just cutting calories and cutting calories. At what point do you stop cutting where you're like eating nothing, right? And so I would encourage you to maybe increase your calories, maybe increase the protein, the healthy fats, and so see what happens, right? But those are the things that I would first try, and if those aren't working, then you can consider things like intermittent fasting and maybe some HIIT training to really boost up your metabolism. Have you tried any of those?
I love all this. I intermittent fast 19 plus hours daily and have for years. And I have adjusted my macros and my calories, and I've gone more high protein. I've been eating clean with no sweeteners for how long, Judith? 10 days, 11 days? So some of those, I mean, those same kinds of ideas have come to me as well. I've lost a pound this month, and so it's not a complete stall, but I have noticed a severe amount of bloat in a different way than I'm used to. And so for me, it's like, I think I have to kind of have a come to Jesus about whether or not this IUD is going to work with my body. And I know that my doctor is going to say, well, it's only been in for 40 days. I'm like, yeah, but I've been bleeding for 40 days. So I might have to really address whether or not that's going to work with the life that I have and the body that I have. And yeah, I had similar thought process and ideas. And I've done a couple of carb cycling days for the first time in probably like a year. And so that's something I don't normally do, and I've upped my calories by about 200 a day because I can tell that I just feel different. But yeah, I've had everything from like passing out to blacking out to all this really crazy fun stuff over since it's been put in. So I think there has to be, a point of no return where we just say this isn't working. And I'm glad to hear also, because she kind of treated me like I was overreacting, where I was like, I don't want anything that's going to mess up my system. I don't want anything that's going to mess with my body. I have it's the first time in my life I've been in tune and in conversation with my body in a way that we're listening to one another. And I just don't want to mess with that. She's like, oh, this won't. It won't. You need to do
it definitely does, though. Any type of foreign invader substance, anything will absolutely mess with your body. And I think that, you kind of already know what it is, right? It's probably like that IUD, and either it will take time for your body to get used to, or you might have to, look for something else. But especially when you say bloated and inflammation, like that for sure to me is like a sign that it just might be that, right? And not necessarily what you're doing nutritionally.
I appreciate that. And I think for part of me, I needed to hear other women be like, girlfriend, like, you, and that helped. And
you do. So, we all know. We all know.
Yes. And so, and I do appreciate, I think part of it too is you were going over your cycle, and I'm like, there's no cycle. There's nothing for me to base that on. I've had a couple years of experience changing my food around my cycle, and now that's gone. And I think that not having that anchor to adjust around is obviously not something my body wants me to do. So thank you. And thank you. There's a couple things that you said that once I get back to my normal body, I need to incorporate again, that I've let go of, or I've just, so almost 3 years into this, just kind of forgot about. I think that you know what you know until it's not on the forefront of your brain sometimes.
Thank you, Mary. And Lesia, you brought up a really good point in there about how women traditionally have been taught, almost like culturally, if you need to lose weight, it's a calorie issue that needs to go down, 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 down. And I'm going, at what point do you stop? Like, I know there's some people that have gotten to like 300-400 calories, and they're gaining weight when they go to 500-600 calories because they've so lowered their basal metabolic rate, and that's not talked about enough. So thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah, of course. It's so important, and I wish we would just stop thinking that we just need to eat less and move more.
Yeah, I've heard that's garbage somewhere along the rainbow. So let's reset the room. This is Keto for the Soul. Click on that little house at the top there, the green house above our heads there. You can see it. Click on that. Go subscribe, join. Mary, who was just speaking, is a wonderful moderator in one of the rooms. Lots of moderators here today of lots of the rooms here in Keto for the Soul. This is where I hang out. My name's Jimmy Moore. I am a 15-plus year podcaster. Living La Vida Low Carb Show. You mentioned earlier, Keto Talk with Jimmy Moore and the Doc. Yeah, I've done a million podcasts. So that's what I feel like I can do here on Clubhouse. So I hope you're enjoying this conversation today. Again, I have Lesia here today. She is a holistic keto nutritionist, big fan of trying to help women normalize their hormones and see success. Tell them your Instagram page again, that specialized program, I forgot.
BSB Tribe.
There it is, BSB Tribe. But click on her picture and scroll down to the bottom, and it gives you all the information about how to connect with her. But I hope you guys have enjoyed this today, how the keto diet's different for women. And speaking of a nutrition expert who understands ketogenesis and happens to be in a late-term pregnancy right now, Temple, you're up.
Hey, Jimmy, thanks for bringing me up. I'm excited. I'm sorry I joined this conversation a little late because you guys are clearly a wealth of knowledge. I just had a couple comments and thoughts for Mary, as well as I'm not sure who asked the breastfeeding question, but I work with several breastfeeding clients now that are that are following keto. So I just figured I'd kind of drop my 2 cents and you guys could take it for what it is. But Mary, I do love how mindful you are of your body, and I think that it's worth noting that I wasn't sure. I heard that you mentioned you're on an IUD, or you have an IUD, but I didn't hear if it was a copper or like a Mirena. But I'm assuming it's the the hormonal one. And I just want to say there is pretty significant evidence that can kind of mess with your insulin levels and blood sugar. And I don't know if that was already. So I would just recommend that you continue to monitor that and stay mindful, because there is clinical research, but as well as a lot of anecdotal evidence from women on the hormonal birth controls that really see kind of high swings in both blood sugar and insulin. So that was just kind of what I was thinking as I was listening to you guys go back and forth for Mary, is that I've seen that many times in my practice, as well as just there's enough research to know that can happen.
Mary?
Thank you so much. Yes, I feel like that science explanation. There's something about like knowing, like your body is responding different. Your insulin's different. Your blood sugar is different. I feel different after having this in for 40 days. I feel like my body is not responding to food the way it normally does. And I had spent a couple years massaging that relationship, and I feel like it's all of a sudden I can tell something is different with how my body's responding to things. And if there is blood sugar and insulin responses that I'm not used to after this long in keto, after this much weight loss, I mean, I'm reaching out to people to look at my macros and readjust them. I do keto coaching and mindset coaching, and I'm going to other keto coaches going, is there something I should be doing different here? Like, what's going on? And I can just tell that this has, I have keto twins. I am somebody who was on keto for 8 months, lost 60 pounds, and now there's 2 of them that came from that. But I definitely can tell that there is something that my body's responding to. And I guess that was part of my question. I was like, is it a hormonal thing? And I didn't even think about insulin or blood sugar. And it's amazing. I've gone through this IUD thing twice in the last 10 years. And I was horrible for the first time. I don't know why I ended up in it with the second time. But my doctor's responses on, is there anything else that could possibly be causing some of these issues, is always, oh, absolutely, it's not that. That's not what it is. It's something with your diet. It's something that, with your exercise. It's the dairy. And I'm like, but it all worked until this thing showed up in my body. And so I appreciate knowing that that's part of that.
Yeah, totally, Mary. I see it all the time. And some women really are almost like hyper responders to synthetic hormones as well, which is what's in birth control. So, and you can see this a lot with thyroid medications too, like Armour versus levothyroxine. So kudos to you for being mindful, and you stick to your guns, girl. And if you feel something's wrong and you know it, you keep doing what you're doing and advocating for yourself. I love that. So, and then my next comment was, someone was asking about breastfeeding and milk supply. And what I've seen in some of my clients to be very, very helpful is just adding a lot more electrolytes because of the way that breastfeeding works, and you're losing all of that. And I love the carb suggestion as well. So I'm definitely saying that too. But it can be helpful if you can add some more electrolytes. I've seen that that work quite well with a lot of my clients who start keto, and just anyone. If you're already breastfeeding and you're not starting keto, go slow. Don't just dive headfirst in. Take it a little bit slower. But yeah, adding some of those electrolytes can be helpful for that milk supply as well. So anyway, I don't know who that was that asked that question, but I appreciate you letting me kind of jump in on those 2 things, Jimmy.
Yeah, that was Johanna that said that. But while I got you here, I want to see, because both you and Lesha have seen lots of clients, mostly female clients, what is some common theme that you see in your practice? And I want to trade notes with Lesha to see if she agrees.
Common themes, you mean like what's different?
Conditions, things that you see that are commonalities amongst a lot of your clientele. What's the big thing that you always see, so that we can educate the audience of maybe them avoiding that?
Yeah, so one of the things I see very frequently is like an unrealistic expectation of weight loss.
Yes.
And and there's this thing around keto, and I'm not sure why, or maybe it's because of the way that keto is portrayed in some social outlets, that you're just going to lose a ton of weight every week, and it's going to be consistent all the way until you get down to your maintenance weight. And that's just not true. And it's especially not true for women. We have such sensitive hormones, and things can shift, and water weight can shift, and our cycles are so important, and all of these things. So I think that's the number one commonality that I see throughout when women who aren't familiar with keto start keto. They think that it's just this rapid weight loss that is just, it's not good for the body. One, you don't ever want to seek that, but it's just a little bit of unrealistic expectation. And then I guess the second thing I see is really too much of a focus on, well, not too much of a focus on food, but not addressing other areas as well. So oftentimes I'll have women that have a lot of the keto diet down really well, but they're not addressing stress, and they don't realize that can also cause insulin resistance. Or maybe they're doing really well with nutrition, but they're really inflamed, or they're keeping a lot of those inflammatory, dirty keto foods in, and they're not addressing that. And then sometimes I have women who are doing great in almost all areas, but they're sleeping 3 hours a night because they may have a baby or whatever. And so I think what I try to do, at least in my practice, is try to address like a whole body approach and a whole picture approach versus just, yes, we can fix food and absolutely let's do that, but let's also understand that there are other things that can drive insulin resistance up, which can affect weight loss as well.
I have a sneaky suspicion, Lesha, you deal with a lot of those same kind of women.
Oh my God, yes, yes, yes. Everything she said, 1,000%. And this is the biggest thing for my clients. Like, they come in and they want to lose weight on keto, and I'm like, okay, but why? You know, like I mentioned before, why have you gained weight? And it's for all these reasons that they don't even know about, or they don't pay attention to. Like their hormones, the stress is a big one. The sleep. What about the gut? Right, the gut microbiome and inflammation in the gut, and all of those things that they don't even know about. And until we heal and address those, it's going to be very difficult for them to lose weight. And again, that expectation, because I think it's because of all the transformation stuff, and I'm all about transformation pictures and all that on Instagram and Facebook, but it's very discouraging when you see all these women say that I lost 10 pounds in my first week of keto, and then you're not losing that 10 pounds. It's so unrealistic, A. B, most of that is water weight, and yeah, if you have a lot of weight to lose, and you start going on a keto diet, you're going to lose weight quicker than someone that maybe only has 10 or 15 pounds to lose. And again, like you said, is that sustainable? Is that healthy? So it's being so obsessed with the scale weight. Like, that is the biggest thing that I see. Women are so frustrated if they don't see that linear downward trend of weight loss, and weight loss is not linear. There's ebbs and flows, and we want to make sure that we're mindful of that, and we are moving down, but know that it's going to go up sometimes, especially during our periods and stuff like that, and that's okay, right? And we don't have to give up and throw in a towel and say it's not working. We have to just realize that we're a little different than men, and our bodies work a little differently.
So, Lesha, how do you reframe that in a woman who says, well, I'm doing it about weight loss. You may not want me to focus on weight loss, but it's about weight loss for me. How do you reframe it and give them other ways to quantify how they're doing?
Well, in my program, I have a step-by-step system that walks women through that journey, and I show them why it's important, so they understand why, okay, sure, you can do the meal plans and the workout plans and all of that, but unless you address all of these other issues, they're not going to work, right? So they understand that. I feel like it's about education, right? Because you don't know what you don't know. Like, I didn't know anything about stress, estrogen dominance, my gut microbiome, and anything that was going on until I started studying it and also got it tested. And most women walk around with some kind of issue, some kind of either gut or hormone issue. It's just the way it is in our society nowadays, but they don't even know. And they're just so focused on, like, I want to lose weight and I want to do keto to lose weight. And if it's not working, that means I need to try harder. That means I need to adjust my macros. That means I need to eat less. You know, all the things. And they're just like, I need to fast and I need to do that and that. And it's like, well, how about we just look at what is the root cause of why you're not losing weight, why it's so difficult for your body to be in homeostasis in the first place. So I think education comes first, knowing, and then also mindset. We do a lot of mindset work in my program. We talk a lot about our limiting beliefs, the all or nothing mentality, our self-sabotaging habits, all these things that prevent us from committing to the journey and knowing this is a journey and it's not a quick fix.
Hear, hear. Yeah, I feel like there's such this cultural push for women aesthetically, and then that pushes them to want to do extremes. And so, yeah, it does push you down this road that's not going to end well in your health. Temple, thank you for your commentary and your questions. Ada, you're up next. Are you there? There you are.
Sorry, was away from my phone. Multitasking, as always.
Yes, of course.
Hi, guys. Wow, you guys are speaking my language. I love to talk about metabolic adaptation, chronic dieting, chronic calorie restriction. Woo, love it. Okay, more personal question. I am almost 43. I had a hysterectomy when I was 36. Haven't had a period since. I still have my ovaries. testing, I have proven that in terms of my hormones, I do better with carbs. But one, I don't want them. My migraines don't want them. My gut doesn't want them. So I want to stay keto, right? And I have been. But I have been playing around with fiber because I do also know that I have deep-rooted gut issues that I'm yet 6 years later haven't gotten to the root of it. 2 questions. Number one, what are the, because I am not in sync with my cycle, what would have been my cycle had I still had a cycle, so that I can play with those fibers around what would have been my cycle. What are the tricks, things I should look for to kind of like calculate that? Because honestly, I'm one of those females that I am not in tune with that, unfortunately.
Lesha?
Okay, what exactly are you trying to calculate?
When, because you know how they say, oh, if you're going to do carb cycling, do it around your cycle.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't get a cycle, so I wouldn't know.
Right.
So,
Go ahead. Do you exercise?
Yes.
How many times a week and what intensity?
I do 4 times a week HIIT training. I'm a fitness trainer, so I teach boot camp, so I do minimum 4 times a week, and then I run once a week.
Okay, so I would start with picking 2 days a week that you do more extreme workouts, like the HIIT training or the run day, and just increase your carbs that day. So maybe like try for like 30 grams more and experiment on yourself. And also, as far as the gut goes, I'm in the same boat as you. I had my gut tested and it was all imbalanced, and it's all related to cortisol and stress. It all works together, right? And so what I've really been focusing on is the insoluble fiber, prebiotics, so things like inulin, acacia fiber, and resistant starches, because they're resistant, so your body's not really, it doesn't treat it the same way as normal starch. So those are also things that you can kind of consider to cycle in and add in, like green banana powder, cooled white rice, just a little bit, like a 4th cup or whatever on your workout days, cold potatoes, things like that, to really help with your gut. And then that will also give you the opportunity for that extra carb cycling. So insoluble fiber, not soluble? Yeah, I focus on insoluble but like you could do both, but you can do insoluble, you could rotate it however you want. I personally do insoluble fiber for trying to, when I'm cycling, and I focus on trying to add in those resistant starches. Yeah, that's what I've been doing, but I haven't been doing them strategically in terms of around my workouts, just because I do work out fairly regularly, and then I just find like my carb count goes way up. Yeah, and again, that comes up to like, how obsessed are you about that carb? Like, how important is that, right? If you're losing weight, if you feel great, like that's where it's like, is it okay maybe for you to have a little more carbs and be okay with it, right? Rather than knowing that you're trying to heal your gut and all of those other things. So those are just kind of some things that you can consider weighing out for yourself.
Yeah, I just started playing with that, so I'm taking notes and taking data, and we'll make a decision based on that. But like I said, I don't get a cycle, so I have no idea when I'm ovulating or none of that good stuff. So that I can also take that into account.
Thank you.
Yeah, you can also just like pick a week out of the month, and there's, and still kind of see how you feel, or maybe whatever, and just pick a week and experiment with that and see how it goes. I know it's hard when you don't have a cycle, but I've seen there's something out there that even if you don't have a cycle, there's a way to like do it around the hormones and stuff like that. So I would look into that.
Yeah, if you have any direct resources, please let me know.
Yeah,
I'd love to dig more into that.
I'll have to look in. I've seen something like that, and I will DM you when I
Thank you. Much appreciated. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Ada. And Lesha, I want to ask about the resistant starch, because sometimes people, especially in the keto world, they hear starch and they think it's like a cross and they're a vampire. And they don't see the value in it. Can you briefly talk about how it's not only going to be helpful, it actually helps you stay in a good fat burning mode. Did you hear me, Lesha? Going once, going twice. Can you hear me? Oh, Lesha. She did say, you guys, that she had a bad Wi-Fi signal. I wonder if it's petered out. It's done so well the whole time. Lesha, you there?
Yeah, sorry. I totally missed. Yeah, I missed your last.
No, you're fine. I can repeat, sweetie. Yeah, I can repeat, sweetie. So basically what I said is it was fascinating you mentioned resistant starch earlier, because usually when people in the keto world hear starch, it's like a vampire seeing a cross. And they're like frightened half to death. Oh my God. So what's the dirty little secret about that, at least for some people, and I'm wondering if for women, that it provides them the benefits that you described earlier, but then they're also still very much in fat burning mode. They're scared to do it because they think it's going to kick them out of ketosis. So how do you have that conversation with them?
Yeah, so resistant starch, it functions soluble.
Uh-oh. You're coming in and out, Lesha. You're coming in and out. We can hear like a word and then 2 words gone. Word, 2 words gone.
As even some research.
Oh, hello? Lesha? I don't think she realizes we can't hear her, you guys. So we're going to go ahead and move on to Jody with your question, and hopefully we can get her connection back. What you got, Jody? Jody, can anybody hear? Don't you guys leave me hanging here. All right, Lesha, come back. Can you hear?
Can you hear me? Sorry.
Yeah, there you are. There's Jody. Yeah, you have to hit the little microphone to come on. There you go.
Thank you. This is my first time talking.
That's all right. You did good.
So I had 2 questions, and Ada kind of asked my first one, which was, I had previously had an ablation, so I no longer have a cycle. I totally understand what everyone's saying about cycling to your hormones, but if you don't know when that is, it's hard to determine. And I really love the way Mary put it, that it was an anchor point in the month, but if you don't have that anchor, how do you find it? I think I probably got my answer at the previous one. But
okay.
Then my second question was, I've been keto for 2 years now, had great success, but really gotten into I've spent most of that time fasting a lot. More than intermittent fasting, lots of long-term fasts, and I really, truly believe I've lowered my metabolic rate. Like everyone talks about, I fell into the trap. And so as you hear people constantly saying, now you need to eat more, do you guys recommend that you do it in the reverse diet style we hear about, where it's a gradual increase, or you just jump in the deep end?
Lesha, what do you do?
Okay, I missed half of that question.
Yeah, so basically she was talking about doing extended fasting as a woman, and that she feels like she lowered her basal metabolic rate as a result of doing that.
Yes, that can definitely happen. So I would take a break from that extended fast and try increasing your calories to increase that basal metabolic rate. But I wouldn't necessarily jump right away to an extreme.
So extended fasting would not be good, is what I think she's trying to say. Yeah, you cut out again, Lesha. I was trying to fill in the gaps of where you were cutting out.
Yes, I'm sorry.
That's all right. You did warn me that your Wi-Fi sucked, so it went great the whole show until the last 10 minutes. So.
Of course.
Yes. Well, Jody, did that answer your question?
Well, I think I'm in the same boat as you, as I only heard about 1 out of 3 words.
Yes, sorry.
So,
yeah. Maybe you guys connect on Instagram.
Yeah, I can message you about that.
Okay, perfect. Like I said, I just want to know if it's better to gradually increase those calories or just
I would definitely gradually increase them.
Okay.
Yeah, the reverse dieting. All right. Well, thank you, Jody. Dwayne, you're the last one today. What you got for us, bro?
You know what, Jimmy? Actually, the only reason I jumped in was because you weren't sure if anybody could hear you. And,
Oh, no. I knew you could hear me. It was Lesha that
I wanted to let Lesha know that when I've had trouble with that with people in the past, I tell them to turn their Wi-Fi off and just use LTE because it takes like almost nothing for data. You would definitely be able to keep your connection better. That was just my suggestion.
Thank
I don't
you.
want to take up any more time, but I just wanted to give a little bit of a data help out and just say, hey, you know what? Lesha might be able to solve some of this problem by turning the Wi-Fi off to LTE.
We're all learning this in real time, so I'm sure Lesha appreciates that bit of tech advice. Thank you, bro.
Cheers.
Yeah, I was wondering what kind of keto for women question he was going to have for us.
Right.
But I love all the dudes that were here today, along with all you lovely ladies. Thank you guys for joining us here today on Keto for the Soul. Lesha, before we leave, pimp yourself. What you got for us?
Myself. So yeah, if you are looking for keto recipes, go check out my blog, epfitexplore.com. I do mostly dairy-free, clean keto recipes, a lot of great keto information. If you need more help, like if you're a woman and you're trying to lose weight and you're struggling and you're like, I think I might have something that's getting in my way, definitely go join the wait list. Actually, we're going to be opening up here in a few weeks in March. It is a closed doors membership site, bsbtribe.com. You can get on the wait list. It's a more group coaching format, and I will guide you through that and help you through your process of finding out what the reason is behind your weight gain or lack of weight loss, and we will help you get through that and get the results that you want. You can find me on Instagram at epfitexplore for the keto food blog, at bsbtribe for all weight loss.
And she's cutting out again.
Yeah,
you said your food blog. You're a podcaster as well. What's the name of the podcast?
The podcast is called the Fit Mom Squad.
Yes, I love your show. You've got such energy on that show. I like energetic podcasters.
Thank you, Jimmy. Yeah, I just started it not too long ago, and I love it. It's really fun. So yeah, all those things, and you can always reach out to me in DMs also.
Yes. Well, thank you for being my guest here today on Keto for the Soul.
Thanks so much for having me, Jimmy. I really appreciate it.
Of course. And guys, coming up, I've got some wonderful things coming up. Later this afternoon at 1:30, one of the things that I like to do is break down studies and try to make them understandable. And I've got a new study, you guys, that shows cardiovascular benefits for people dealing with type 2 diabetes when they go on a low-carb, high-fat diet. So come back at 1:30 for that. Tomorrow, I have my friend Ben Azadi from Keto Camp about the do's and don'ts of keto at 10:30 in the morning. And I'll have a live Live La Vida Low Carb Show interview with Vivica Menegaz about her new book, Essential Carnivore Diet. Go click on my bio. You'll see all of the upcoming interviews I have planned. I love this format of Clubhouse. I hope you guys are loving it as much as I am. And I'm doing what Jimmy Moore knows how to do, and I can create content. So come follow me. Click on that green house at the top. Definitely subscribe and listen in all day. I sure do. I know, Lesha, you do as well. So keep listening, and thank you guys for being here today, and we'll see you again soon. Bye.